Peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. And this week's message from the Minista is surrender to the miracle. Surrender to the miracle. And I'm going to give you the secret right up front that miracle is the root word of miracle, and the meaning, the original root meaning of the word miracle is wonderful. It's wonderful, something full of wonder. And I think I wanted to give that little piece up front when we read the definition. It's not going to be a long definition because that's something we need to know when we talk about a miracle. Because we've been conditioned to think that, the miracle is Moses rising his staff and parting the Red Sea. And we think, that's quite a miracle, like to raise up a rod and the sea parts. Like, wow, that's quite a miracle, So if we start thinking of miracles more in or another miracle, Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. And we're like, oh, wow, that's quite a miracle. So those are miracles, no doubt. But when we talk about the root word of the word miracle being wonderful, we start seeing that the everyday miracles that we talked about this last week when we read from the Gospel of Hip Hop, that we experience these little miracles every day, but because we're so used to them, we don't sometimes acknowledge them. And I think that one of the things I would like to put across is that feeling of wonderment, that feeling of, oh, this is wonderful. Oh, that is wonderful. That is full of wonder. Like, how did that happen? Wow. That in that space that we're in, that actual feeling is what creates more and more of it. The feeling of wonder of the great event, of the experience that we're having of life itself. Having that this is, Jesus said, have the faith of a child. This is the faith of a child. You look at a child is full of wonder. Even kids who were abused as children, they're still, when they're by themselves, they're full of wonder. There's a feeling of wonder when we're like a child and when we're in our, not childishness, but childlike, as adults, when we approach the world full of wonder. And that's what the miracle is. It's simply something that's wonderful. It's to be full of the wonder of the mystery of the miracle itself. And so I was, these were very interesting words because I was thinking the first word I came up with this week, I kept hearing the word surrender. I was like, surrender, okay. So as the message of the minister was coming, I was like, surrender to God. Okay, that's a good name for a message from the minister. Sounds kind of, plain, but we know surrender to God and surrender to the universe. And that's a good name too. That'd be a good name for it. And, surrender to the great event, surrender to the morphogenetic field. Like my mind was going like, surrender to what? What are we surrendering to? And, like this afternoon when I was putting the notes together, I was just like, well, you know what? Surrender to the Most High. We'll talk about what is the Most High. And I wrote the notes, got everything out. And then, I was about to jump in the shower to prepare for tonight's message. And I just heard surrender to the miracle. And I was like, finally, that's the miracle happening right there. Let my sense of wonder increase. And I was listening to some medicine music, some medicine songs from South America, some ayahuasca songs. And while I was listening to that, it inspired that sense within me. And it was something that it was just such a busy week of busyness and worldly busyness, meeting schedules, getting things to suppliers, putting things together, figuring out how PayPal transfers work and what I got to do because, for a business to run, you got to be kind of 1 foot in one world and then as a spiritual man, 1 foot in the other. And, for me as hip hop, that's what the teacher taught was like, you can have a foot in both worlds if you know how to flip it right. But God is always first in both worlds. Because I'll tell you, if you don't put God first in the spiritual world, people get lost in the spirit realm all the time. And it's weird because we call it the spirit world. The world and the spirit world. Not the realm of the Spirit, not the experience of the Spirit, not being the Spirit, but the world of the Spirit. And there becomes this world of the Spirit, and people will follow that world of the Spirit and get lost in it because they're not focused on, and I'm not criticizing anybody. It's part of a soul's journey to get lost in the spirit world or get lost in the world of finance or whatever that is. God willing, it's part of their spiritual growth because, like, let's be real, there is a danger out there that if you get lost in the spirit world, that quote from John Trudell that, be careful with your spirit because you're in the place where spirits get eaten. This is where a warning and guidance from elders and having community comes in, because then we have others looking out for us. Like, hey, don't get stuck in that spirit world too often. Like you don't need to eat mushrooms every day for the next month. Magic mushrooms, don't get lost in the worldly ways of business. Like your heart is getting colder, and that's just let it go, let go and let God. None of this is coming with us. It's good to have that reminder in both worlds, because it's really not both worlds. It's just got to be one world at some level. And I say this not as a capitalist or as anything. I say this as just ancient commerce is. Just commerce is a part of interaction between groups of people and individuals as well. There's always been some form of commerce, whether it's skill trade, whether it's just community group work, it's still commerce. The hunting party goes out, they catch something big enough to feed the community. So the one who actually, shot the arrow or threw the spear or got the animal, that's a person who everybody thanks and congratulates, but the group carries back the animal. The group cooks the animal. The group prays for the animal, prays over the animal and the spirit and their bodies and what's going to happen in the future, and for the other plants and vegetation that goes part of the food. These are very ancient concepts because that is its form of commerce as well. So, there's a laziness that's happening. And this is where we're going to get into surrender to the miracle. There's a laziness that's happened in both these worlds, the so-called spiritual world and the so-called material world in modern day times. And that laziness is, people think that they just want to sit at home because society's advanced and technology's advanced. They're putting forward this idea that you just sit at home and get a paycheck from the government with no strings attached, okay? And everybody gets this living wage and things like that. And I think everybody should have access to food, water, shelter, everything. Like I do not support the United States government. They are out of control and they are out of their minds, insane. So just to put that disclaimer there. But part of our abilities as humans is taken away when a governing body provides things, because they become the power. They become the provider, they become the parent, they become the God of those they're giving to and providing for. They become the Lord of the loaf. They're the ones providing the bread. And in the spiritual world too, the idea of all I've got to do is just think and attract it, that's good. Yeah, that's part of it, that's part of it. But what is it that we're thinking and attracting? And as I've talked about very often, this is where we get in surrender to the miracle, is that those who get lost in the spiritual world without having the sight that there is a greater intelligence, a greater God than you as an individual, and us as individuals, limited imagination, and our imagination is unlimited. However, as we think and we imagine certain situations, what we would call the law of attraction, that we want to bring things into our life, we're just limited to what we know. We're not limited to what we know, but in that way of thinking, it limits those into that way of thinking, into like just being limited to what they know. And how do we become unlimited? How do we become, we surrender to that which knows all, which is God, the miracle of life itself. We surrender ourselves to that intelligence, that great event, that God force, that is the wonderful thing that brings us things that are full of wonder. So when we say, God, this is what, my heart is longing for this. And then we get this wonderful experience that we didn't even know was possible if we were just limited to our own human understanding and thinking. Lean not on your own understanding is the way that the Bible talks about it. So in hip hop, intelligent movement, and up-to-date hip knowledge, like up-to-date intelligent movement here in 2022, when we say surrender to the miracle, we're talking about something that requires patience, it requires growth, it requires joy, it requires happiness, it requires surrendering things that are holding us back. It's not just surrendering. The surrender is all of it. The surrender is I surrender my doubts and fears, and I surrender my faith. Okay, I surrender my faith to you, God. I surrender my discipline to you, God. I surrender my responsibilities to you, God. God, I surrender my fears to you. God, I surrender my doubt to you. Once we start getting into that, and we surrender those things, because what happens is we're no longer in denial. And a lot of what modern day spirituality and what the world is teaching, because they're very close, it's the same thing that's happening. Okay, it's the same thing. There's no separation. Is that people are wanting to control the outcome. And when we say, people say, oh, you just got to think positive about it. And then people go into this thing, okay, I'm just going to think positive. I'm just thinking positive. I feel like a wreck inside right now, but I'm just thinking positive. I just think good thoughts all the time. Oh, man, why am I having a hard time thinking good thoughts? Oh, I'll just think good thoughts. Oh, man, I'm not thinking good thoughts. Oh, but I am thinking good thoughts. And all of a sudden there's like this energetic battle within, right? And that's not surrender at all. The surrender comes into saying, yo, God, I surrender my negative thoughts and my fear to you right now. Because I'm going to acknowledge that I'm actually feeling this. And I'm going to acknowledge that, I'm asking for your guidance and your direction in this surrendering. I'm asking for a miracle, God. And when we surrender in that way, we surrender our shortcomings, our so-called mistakes, our so-called sins. That's what forgiveness is. It's the surrendering of a sin, of crossing the line of a selfish, inconsiderate need of something, that was just out of vibrational harmonics with the universe itself and what God is asking from us. When we surrender that to God and we say, God, I surrender this action that I took, or these thoughts that I was thinking, or these feelings that I was having that just weren't, they just don't feel like they're you, and I surrender that to you. And I'm sorry that I even felt those ways. That surrender, the miracle happens and your energetic body just changes. Okay? And there's no, it's not like you have to have a secret breathing technique. You already just start breathing different through the surrender. So I'm saying here is have the spiritual techniques and have the worldly techniques. Have those down. That's part of the mastery. That's part of the knowledge. But also know there's a deeper knowledge that comes with that, and that's the surrender that God can bring the right business contacts into you, and God can bring the right spiritual experiences you have, and then you'll see that even the right business contact is a spiritual experience. You see what I'm saying? See, this is where I'm saying the worlds are, there's only one thing happening. There's only one event happening. There are not two powers. There's only one power, God, the great event. So when we can surrender to that great event and realize I'm not two things happening at once, I'm just one thing happening. I'm not my past and my future trying to happen. I'm just my everlasting now happening right now in the eternal now. What a wonderful experience this is. What a miracle this is. And speaking of surrendering to the miracle, thank you all for being here tonight. Across all time and space, this room is expanded. There are thousands of people here watching this right now. And even though my last count last week was like 40-something and 30-something before that, and 70 and 80 and then 100 and 400 when Eddie Jesus was here, I've realized that this audience is growing in the future, and I don't know what the event is. I don't know what the event is where more people just start tuning into the message from the Minista, but it's a miracle that it happened. And I'm just acknowledging the miracle now because I don't even know when it's going to happen. I don't even know what the miracle is. All I know is it's the miracle. And I already feel the miracle of it happening. So when I see like thousands of people, or I see like a literal, what is it, about 1,000 here right now, I'm like, my heart is warmed by this experience because, you know, you're here in spirit. You're all here in spirit right now. And this could have been at any other time, in any other place, like you could have been watching something else right now in the everlasting now. You could have been tuning into anything else and somebody else in the everlasting now right now. But you chose to tune into him. You chose to tune into this. And so all of a sudden now there's more and more people tuning in. And it could be far forward in this guy's so-called future, and it could be far away from this guy's so-called space, but in spirit, there is no time and space, and we're all here in this wholeness and this oneness together. And so we surrender to that miracle. You know what? Let's start with miracle because I feel a word coming. I feel a word coming. I'm thinking of my notes in my head. I'll peek at them, but I feel a word coming through. I think we'll just look at the word definition of miracle first. I'll put it up here on the screen. Miracle, an event that appears inexplicable by the laws of nature, and so is held to be supernatural in origin or an act of God. And that to me is kind of like, you know, that's the miracle of Moses parting the Red Sea right there. And never be in denial that that miracle actually happened. And never be in denial that Jesus Christ, Yeshua, actually raised Lazarus from the dead. So don't think for a moment that what I'm preaching here is against anybody's beliefs or the actual miracles that we hold, you know, very true to us, that we've been raised with and that we've studied. Those are miraculous events. And those are the ones that this describes right here. An event that appears inexplicable by the laws of nature. And the reason I say that is because the laws of nature themselves are a miracle. Nature itself is a miracle. But the laws of nature, Moses parting the Red Sea, what, can we even fathom what consciousness was happening then? What crystalline power and consciousness was happening for water to part, a sea to part, for people to walk across dry land? I just want to throw that out there because as we're preaching tonight, know that these are also symbolic. That the parting of the Red Sea is symbolic too. It has a metaphysical meaning. Lazarus raising from the dead has a metaphysical meaning. Osiris being remembered by Isis has a metaphysical meaning. Okay? And it is considered supernatural in origin or an act of God. Okay? So that's true. Miracles are of supernatural origin and an act of God, but everything is a miracle. Everything is supernatural is an origin. Everything has a supernatural, like everything we're experiencing, the wholeness and the oneness, this whole thing is a miracle. And this is where the hip-hop site comes in, and this is where my own personal enlightenment comes in. This is the experience now. That just speaking through this camera or reading this computer or moving my fingers is a miracle. It is inexplainable how existence and creation actually happened. We live in a miracle. Definition number 2, one that excites admiring awe. One that excites admiring awe. Prince playing guitar to a stadium full of people. Him just riffing on a guitar. It inspires and excites admiring awe. So Prince's guitar is a miracle. The teacher KRS-One performing in front of an audience that's just hype and just losing their minds, going bananas, sweating, singing along every song. Miracle. You are a miracle. Shout out to Minister G. Simone and the teacher on the Streetlight album, the song Miracle. Play that song. Play that song in your head this week and play it on your stereo this week. Definition number 3. See synonymous with the word wonder. Okay? So a miracle is synonymous with the word wonder. But watch how they did us again. Definition number 3, a miracle play. I guess there's a play called a miracle play. I'll tell you a miracle play. They have one called the Immaculate Reception in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe it's Lynn Swann, one of their Super Bowl teams, had this like Immaculate Reception, or it was another player, I believe. And then Dwight Clark, Joe Montana threw him a pass called the catch, and that was considered a miracle, a miraculous catch. Or I was thinking of one other one. James Conrad in Frisbee golfing, he had what was called the holy shot last year. He had to make this perfect shot, and he hundreds of people watching him up against the best in the world. And if he makes this one shot, he wins the tournament. If he misses it, he loses the tournament. There's no tie here. And so he whips that shot up around, and it goes in this basket. It takes this, it was holy. It was a miracle. It was a miraculous shot given the circumstances. And so that would be called another miracle, a miracle play in sports. Middle English, from Old French, from Latin, miraculum, from maiari, to wonder at, from Mirius, wonderful. Okay, see, so this is where it's interesting, because the actual word itself, Mirius, which became miracle, means wonderful. So Old French, Middle English, and Latin means wonderful, to be wonder at. So that's what it is. It's this wonderful experience that we're having all the time. And, I believe that there is a disservice done to young minds when they're raised to think that either A, miracles don't exist, because we all know miracles are the only sure thing in life, and B, those who are explained that a miracle is only parting the Red Sea or raising somebody from the dead. Like, that's a disservice to both. Because the real sight, the real being, is that life and creation itself is a miracle. And we know it because when a baby's born, they used to call it the miracle of life. And we still do. Some of us still call it that, but they're trying to make it like it ain't. The miracle of life. Life itself is a miracle. How did this happen, and how does it sustain itself? Oh, well, science says there was a Big Bang, and we don't know where the Big Bang came from, but religion says God spoke the word, and the word came out, and then the world was born, and then the sun came out on the second day, and then he made some plants and animals and trees, and it was done. And it's like, you explain all of this in a couple paragraphs, a couple chapters of a book. You can explain all of this and how it works, the vibratory frequencies, sound, vibration, color. We can speak a word that others understand. We have dreams. We have eyeballs. We're made of water. Water's everywhere. Electricity, energy. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot happening right now that has nothing to do with what you're thinking about. There's all kinds of miraculous things happening, and we're not even focused on that. They're just happening to us because we are it. And this is where the beauty of it comes in. This is where the joyful wonderment comes in. This is where, to me, what the real miracle of what we're getting at here, when we surrender to this miracle, is we realize we are the miracle. Streetlight, Minista G. Simone, and the teacher KRS-One, their song, Miracle. You are a miracle. You are a miracle, a living, breathing, walking miracle in all of its glory, no matter where you're at or what you're doing. And I'm saying that because I know that there's an audience whose vibratory frequency is matched to this. I'm not saying the heinous debauchery that's happening in the world. I'm not calling that a miracle. As part of the wholeness, it's a miracle. It's part of the miracle, part of the wholeness of the miracle. But I'm not going to give life to something that is anti-life. You know? Why? Why would we feed the void? Why would we, feed that thing which harms and hurts and devours? Why would we feed that? Well, we've been tricked into feeding it. And the trick is to get people addicted to feeding it. But the cure is really simple. Surrender to God. Surrender to the miracle of life itself. Surrender to you. Surrender to your purpose. Surrender to your miracle. And the little miracles that happen that are every moment. Me just moving my foot right now is a miracle. If I didn't have a foot, it would be a miracle. If I couldn't talk anymore, it would still be a miracle I'm experiencing. And what happens is when we don't surrender to the life, like we've been taught to do, that there's no such thing as miracles, or miracles just happened thousands of years ago when a guy lifted up a staff and moved some water. Those are the only things. Miracles don't work, or only Moses and Jesus did some miracles. Like when we grow up in that is the moment we lose our sense of wonder. When we're told that there's nothing wonderful about life. But wait, I'm a kid. Everything's wonderful. A piece of paper is wonderful. A dry leaf is wonderful. A roly-poly bug is wonderful. An ant is wonderful. Everything's wonderful as a kid. Just staring at the wall is wonderful when you're just tripping out as a kid. Little babies just be staring at the wall like, hey, whoa, And then as we get older, that's not a miracle. That's not wonderful. No, there's nothing. Everything is serious. You have to think about where you're going. Shame on you, bad person. You get an F. Oh, you got an A. Well, you got to keep that up. You got an A, you got to keep it up. If you keep up your A's, you will be a valuable member and we will approve of you. Everybody's approval or disapproval on social. Everybody's going to either approve of you or disapprove of you. And we grow up in that. Well, no wonder we lose our sense of wonder. No wonder we lose our sense of our miracle. No wonder we lose our sense of wonder. Because there's no wonder there. They're taking it away. They're taking it away, and don't take it away from your children because somebody took it away from you. Okay? Don't do it. Don't take it away from anybody else because somebody took it away from you. No, if you see somebody who has the wonder, admire it and just resonate with it and realize that my sense of wonder never went nowhere. Where did the 4-year-old version of you go? Where did the little version of you go? Where is it now? If it's not you with you now, you as you now. And your future self, you now, was experiencing that wonder when you were 4 years old, as you are now. It's everywhere. You're always here. You're always there. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to learn. There's nothing to see. It's already with thee. You just got to know. You just got to be it. It just grow into it. And there's no need to rush into it either. There's no need to pay money into it. Oh, let me just keep feeding the money. I'll get more enlightened if I just keep I can get enlightened for $500 this weekend. Oh, I'm going to pay $500. Oh, I can get enlightened for $1,500 for a week over there. And I'm not dissing none of that. Hey, I'll go on a retreat for real. Go on a spiritual retreat and let your soul relax at a beautiful space in a beautiful place, eating beautiful food around wonderful people. Do it. But realize it's the spirit and it's the space. You can't pay for enlightenment. And that a spiritual retreat doesn't necessarily mean enlightenment, because my enlightenments come in the darkest streets, on the darkest nights, with gunshots going off outside. That's where enlightenment comes in real quick. That's why hip-hop is so enlightened. You get enlightened quick when it's a life or death situation. Okay? And I ain't no hardened street dude or nothing like that, but I know enough of them, and I've experienced their life by being around them, and I've experienced little glimpses of it when I was younger, hearing gunshots, seeing the neighbor going to kill the other neighbor, having my life threatened as a kid, getting abused and beat up, whatever. We experienced that as kids. But I'm saying is that for some reason, the harder life lessons that we learn, we actually get enlightened. And though not everyone that gets that enlightenment. A lot of people, it just eats their spirit and their soul and their life away too. That's why there's so much damage in damaged areas. It's not like in a war zone, everybody's walking around in light, and maybe I'm a handful of people, So once again, because they will say that. They will take credit for the evil that they do, because they're saying, see, you overcame the evil that we created. Aren't we great for being so evil to you? We gave you a chance to ascend to your Christ self because we were so evil to you. Yeah. That's what they think, too, by the way. That's what they think, by the way. They think by continually abusing humanity, they're going to keep bringing the best out of humanity. How dumb can they be? How wrong could they be, really? And that's kind of a hard thing to kind of navigate through, but let's make it easier on everybody. Because we've all experienced some form of abuse. Just the system itself is abusive. This government right now, the way in the United States, are just jacking up the cost of living exponentially. It's their punishment for being born. It's their punishment for you being you. It's their punishment for you being a human and their souls. They don't have a soul. They don't have a soul. So they have to punish those with a soul. They have to punish the masses. And that's what they're doing right now. Why? Because as they punish people, they derive their pleasure. They're narcissists, they're sociopaths, they're psychopaths. They derive pleasure from other people's suffering. And the only way you can derive pleasure from suffering is you have to tell people and give them some light and some love and some care, or a stimulus check. Oh, we care about you. Here's a stimulus check. Oh, wow, thanks. And anybody who's been in a narcissistic relationship, you'll know this, that you get all this good stuff, and then the hammer drops, and then the abuse comes. And then after you've been abused and you can't take no more, and they're told you it's your fault that you're being abused. It's your fault that the taxes are going higher. It's your fault that this is happening. It's your fault that the gas costs more because you didn't think this way, or you thought this way, or you didn't vote this way, or you voted this way. It's all your fault, by the way, they say. And then people just go, well, I guess it's all our fault. We couldn't do any better than this. This is our fault. And people get abused with that, this Stockholm syndrome. And then as soon as people are just like, oh, I'm so weary. Watch what happens in the United States. After people's backs have been broken again, and the weariness of this economic depression sets in over the next couple years. Not for everybody. Hey, I got to experience none of that. None of that, and neither are you. But watch how it's affecting other people. And people get abused by this system, and the weight of this system is pushing them down. And they're like, we just have to check out of the system. Then the system's going to give everybody a stimulus check. Give everybody, oh, there's a light on the horizon. Oh, there's a new savior politician. Oh, he's got the plan. He's got the economical plan. Oh, we figured it out. We figured out how to make this work. And you can be a part of it. And they're, we could be a part of building up the system that they tore down, that they broke our parents' back and lied to us and keep lying to us and keep abusing us. Great, let's go back to the abuser. That's what happens in a narcissistic relationship. So then the abuser gives throws some breadcrumbs to the people, throws some stimulus checks to the people, gives the people a fraction of what they're worth, and the people go, oh wow, well this is better than being abused. This little bit of breadcrumbs is better than starving. Thank you, master. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then anybody who says anything otherwise, hey, you leave them alone. You leave them alone. It was Trump's fault all along. It was Biden's fault all along. It was the Congress's fault all along. It was this guy. It's everybody's fault all along. And you should know better. It's shame on you for even questioning any of this. And I mean, this is really happening. That's abuse. The government is abusing the people all the time. But because people don't recognize the narcissism and think, oh, I got a little stimulus check. Oh, I got 1 cent on the dollar. I gave them $1, I got back 1 cent, and they're going to go take that cent and take another $1 from me that I don't even have when they hack up the gas and food prices and the food prices and all the other prices. Yo, my nobility, get out of that matrix, and you can have a job and be out of the matrix, okay? It's the mindset. It's the soul sight. It's the hip hop sight. It's the spiritual sight that really matters the most right now. And so, as people are abused and they're experiencing that abuse, it's really hard to recognize the miracle when you're being abused. And as children, somebody who came from an abusive home, Dad beat me bad, was like rough, tough, verbally, physically, emotionally. I mean, it was rough, right? And it made me tough. So I got no complaints. That's the miracle of it all. But like, as a young kid, you're more start thinking like this world is full of wonder, but like I'm scared. But here's where the miracle comes in, okay? Here's where the miracle comes in. Music. My escape from the abuse or whatever you want to call it, just childhood. I mean, nothing special. I've heard people who had it way worse than I did. Heard people who had it way better than I did. I ain't judging my situation. It is what it is. And I'm grateful for it. I'm thankful for it. And I love my dad for it. Because music became the escape. Music became the miracle. Music became this world that I could put the headphones on, or I could just turn the stereo up. And I could get lost in a sound and a sight. And, U2, like the Joshua Tree or Bob Marley. And, it just, wow, rap, like freaks come out at night. Freaks come out at night. Your mind just starts imagining these pictures of this other world where other people live. And you're hearing their superhero version of it. Jam on it, like, don't stop the planet rock. Don't stop, come to electric kingdom. I was listening to all this week just thinking, like, what a miracle this hip hop music was for me as a young kid, as an escape. It just poked me into a world of color and sound and vibration that even those around me who listened to music weren't listening to it. I was like, me and my brother were the only kids we knew who were listening to rap music. And I still, to this day, I'm still trying to figure out, how do we get that rap tape? Other than, what I can remember is, it's a miracle. It had everything on it. Probably just recorded from the radio and given to me from a kid at school. But and I'm talking like this first one I had with Electric Kingdom and Jam on it. I think my uncle gave it to us. I'm gonna have to ask my brother if he remembers, but we were so little when we got it, like so little. But it was our favorite tape. Like, we used to know all the rap, the Jam on it. And so our escape though was music, and not just rap, hip hop. Like I said earlier, U2, as I got a little older, Bob Marley, I got into some dark music like Pink Floyd, I think I kind of stay away from that kind of music now, music became this escape. But once again, the escape can lead you to a dark place that even takes you further down into the depths of despair. Like, if I would have just embraced Pink Floyd as opposed to Bob Marley. And once again, I'm not dissing or judging nobody's taste in music. I'm just saying, for me personally, if I started following the Pink Floyd path and just started going into the darkness, I could have stayed there. But following Bob Marley into, which is darkness and light. There's nothing evil about darkness. And when I'm saying darkness, I'm saying, basically that void that just drains the soul of life force energy, that thing. Pink Floyd would have delivered me to that, where Bob Marley delivered me back to Rastafari, back to Jah, back to God, back to Jesus, Yeshua. I'll never forget no way they crucified Jesus Christ. And then we're getting a little older, and then being empowered by the words of Boogie Down Productions and KRS-One through Boogie Down Productions, because it was just, it was really him the whole time. And shout out to everybody part of BDP and the great music that they made, the greatest hip hop of its era. BDP is the greatest hip hop of its era. Of all the great hip hop that came out during BDP's reign, BDP is the best of the best. Show me something better. So that music became an escape. So this is where the miracle is. This is where the surrender to the miracle, because the surrender was to the music. And through the music, I would just almost lose focus on the music and start praying with God on a deeper level as a 10-year-old, as an 11-year-old, and 12-year-old, and 13-year-old. I put the Joshua Tree on from U2. Joshua Tree from U2 is just such a spiritual album. Whatever U2 became after that, forget about it. That Joshua Tree moment that happened was so incredible as a kid in like 1987, just hearing Joshua Tree and the opening guitar riffs from The Edge and just putting those on the headphones and just getting lost in this sound. And then getting lost in the sound, having me start exploring this relationship with God that's the kingdom within. So it doesn't matter where you're at, it was what the point being. It doesn't matter what the abusive situation is. There is a miracle already in your environment. It's you. You're the miracle. And as we accept ourselves as the miracle, these other things, these miraculous events just keep happening. Like you too. I didn't go out looking for you too. This kid, I used to have a debate with him. He was an atheist. I believed in God. And everybody who knew he was an atheist in junior high, this dude, seventh grade, this guy's like, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. And you know, people are like, you're going to hell. Or, you know, people are like, I don't give a fuck. Don't tell me. I don't give a shit. You know, and other people are like, you know, like you need Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And, you know, the science teachers are like, yes, yeah, we don't believe in God either. And, you know, it was just so funny. And just kind of watching the controversy surrounding this atheist, so-called atheist, which is atheist, and a theist is somebody who believes in God. So atheist is someone who believes in God, but English language for you, right? So I would talk with him and debate and go back and forth because I wanted to hear what he thought. How did creation happen? And what is an eyeball? Explain to me an eyeball. And I remember saying, no, I was like, yo, bro, I was like, but the eye is a miracle. Like this thing exists as a miracle. Like how did the eyeball exist? And I always talk about the eyeball as a miracle. This is where that came from. I was like, how does an eyeball exist? How did we get an eyeball that can see things and transmute light? He's like, well, it transmutes light through its retina. I'm like, how did that happen? And he's like, billions of years of, I was like, okay, but how did that happen? You know, like, let's really get to the bottom of this, you know? So I was in seventh grade and, you know, this kid and we were friends, but you know, he was an outcast. I was, I don't know, I was on the fringes. I always been the kind of a rebel loner type, lone wolf back then, but I had friends, but I didn't have a lot of friends. I just kept, you know, to my circle small. And, you know, he handed me this tape though. One time I was getting on the bus, he's like, yo, John, here, you want this? He goes, this is you too. And it had the Joshua Tree on one side and Rattle and Hum on the other side. And I was like, what is this? He's like, just lose yourself in the music. He's like, if there is anything that's spiritual, that's the closest thing I've experienced to it. So an atheist is telling me, I was like, okay, word, let's check this out. And I'll never forget. I went home. My brother went to go hang out with his friend. So I was home by myself from school. What is seventh grade? 13 years old. Went into my room. At 13 years old, I had saved up enough money. My parents helped me get a record player, dual cassette, and CD. CD player at that time. Yes, my first CD player. And these speakers, right? These speakers, they were probably like this big, but they seemed like the big as the room to me back then. And yeah, it was like that was my altar, right? I was just like, oh wow, I've got a real stereo in my room. As a 13-year-old, that's what I wanted. I wanted a bumping system, and this thing wasn't like what you really see back from the '80s, but this shit, it was dope. It was dope, you know. It was my world because I could go buy records for $1. I could buy cassettes used for like $3, or I could go buy a brand new CD for like $20 or whatever they used to be. Which I didn't buy much CDs because it's like, I could buy like 10 records for one CD or 20 records. I mean, it was crazy what CDs used to cost back in the day. Like that's $20 in the 80s. That'd be like a $50 CD. You go out and spend $50 on a piece of music. You must really love it. But anyway, I'm reminiscing now of the miracle of it all. So I remember just going home and blasting U2 and hearing that guitar riff for the first time. And then my parents got home and it was raining that day and everybody was loud. And so I put the headphones on and listened to it again and just got lost in that. But what I really got lost in was the Spirit. I really got lost in the prayer of it all. And when we get lost in the prayer of it all, what is the prayer? What are we praying for? We're always praying for a miracle. Because if we knew how to do it, we would do it. But since we don't know how to do it, we got to ask God to help us do it or to do it for us or to show us how to do it. And that requires a miracle. So surrendering to the miracle It isn't just surrendering to the prayer. Life becomes the prayer. Because why? We're surrendering to all of this. All of it I am. I'm surrendered to creation itself. I'm surrendered to the experience of life itself. Yes, I have boundaries. I have strong boundaries. Strong spiritual boundaries, strong emotional boundaries, strong mental boundaries, strong soulful boundaries, strong friendship boundaries, strong partnership boundaries, strong family boundaries, strong home boundaries. With those boundaries, I'm more surrendered to it because the miracle gets to exist in these places, in these spaces that we create. And then wherever we go, whatever we do, that becomes the miracle. So be the miracle. You are the miracle of your life. Like, you are the miracle of your life. God, the great event, who's experiencing? What is experiencing God? If you couldn't experience God, how was God experienced? Well, if I wasn't experiencing God, then God wouldn't be being experienced. It's an important surrender we're talking about here, because what we're talking about is it's a surrender to our true nature. It's a surrender to our true divinity. It's a surrender to what we were truly and who and why we were truly created to be. And on a real level, what's happening is, when I came into the temple of hip hop, I had already surrendered to hip hop. I surrendered to it. I was like, as soon as I heard the teacher talking about hip hop as a form of consciousness, I was like, the light went on. I was like, that's what I've been experiencing my whole life. That's why I'm able to say and look at Bruce Lee and Bob Marley and Martin Luther King and have no contradiction and see them as one great event, and where other people are like, oh, I only read the Bible, so I can't read Bruce Lee's philosophy. That's Zen, that's witchcraft, or that's sorcery, or that's paganism. And I'm like, what? This man is a high spiritual being, imparting high spiritual wisdom and knowledge. And then, going to the dojo and hearing them talk about Christianity. Well, we don't force this on anybody like they force that Bible on anybody, and we don't need a book to run our lives, and I experienced that even more, not so much in the dojo, but I did experience it a couple times because I was a Christian, and so I got called out on it or whatever. But I experienced that in a hippie community. The hippies talking shit about the Christians, and then the Christians. I went to this church for a while, and they were talking shit about the hippies, and I was like, wow. And they're both, I'm having spiritual experiences in both worlds, because they're not two worlds. It's only one world, me. It's only one event. It's only one perception. It's only one being happening, me, the one. And you, the one. And us, the wholeness of the oneness, okay? So, while you're going out in the world this week, think about that. Think about, and this is where the hip-hop is sight and hip-hop is consciousness comes in, because once I heard the teacher say that, I understood myself. I said, oh, that's what I've been my whole life. I mean, the first time I heard him say it, the first time I heard him talk about hip-hop is consciousness, immediately, it was like, the light was already on, but I saw what the light was showing, okay? I saw what I was actually seeing. Like, how am I just able to effortlessly blend so-called different opposing belief systems, and they are all in harmonious resonance with me? And when teacher said that, hip-hop is conscious, I said resonated with that. And I resonated with it so much that he ended up being my teacher person to person, in resonant harmonics, as he taught me and showed me. And always remember this. And this is what I really wanted to get to, and this is what was trying to hide earlier. KRS-One wants you to experience hip-hop as it is for yourself, for you to have a subjective experience. That's what the teacher taught me. He wanted me to experience what he was experiencing. Not to put him on a pedestal and worship him and praise him, although I do praise him. Like, they do get great work. Just like Martin Luther King. These warriors are worthy of our recognition and worthy of our awareness and we can look at them and be full of wonder for the life that they've lived. And there's not a many of them. You know, I look at wonder for the life of Martin Luther King lived. I met the teacher, and it's a living being. It's not just somebody who's passing in the spirit realm. I'm looking at this guy, and I'm full of wonder. Like, how do you do this? How do you see this? How did you come up with this? Well, Zin, let me show you. Wow. And that is the deepest respect you can have for another being, another persona. But it's about the experience itself. So I just want to pass that to the future. If you're reading the Gospel of Hip Hop, yes, the book is wonderful. Yes, the book is a miracle. All of that. But the book is still the finger pointing to the moon. You're the moon. It's still pointing back to you. And the experience of hip hop itself is something that has to be subjectively lived. You have to feel it and know it and say, that's why I'm able to look at all these religions across all time and space and see one harmonious thread of events through this. I can look at all nations, even the most outcast, bad, evil nations we could talk about. I could still see the harmony of it in nature and why it existed in nature. I must have a certain sight that can bring all of these so-called contradictions and opposing realities into one harmonious, resonant being. That's hip-hop as consciousness. That's hip-hop as the sight. That's what a true and real and living hip-hop is. That's intelligent movement. For real. So surrender to the miracle. Well, hip-hop is the miracle. Surrender to that miracle. Oh, we could get deep. How do we all come together as all these nations, as people, into a culture? Well, we have to have that sight, the spiritual sight, first for it to come out here. It's got to be in the spirit realm first for it to come out here in the physical realm. For the culture to exist, the sight had to exist first. So those who live on the cultural level, I have respect and love, but see it for what it is. My nobility, if you listen to the Minista Zin Uru, if I say I am hip-hop, we are hip-hop, you are hip-hop, has nothing to do with what I'm experiencing, but I want you to experience this too. From my heart to your heart, from my soul to your soul, from my sound to your sound. And none of the events since I said I am hip-hop and I met the teacher have been nothing short of a miracle. When I learned theta from Dove Moses, miracle. When I met Dr. Apollo and the Tree of Life, miracle. My imagination couldn't have come up with that on its own. When I met mi hermano, Eddie Jesus, miracle. The way it happened, boom, boom. Things speed up. Everybody I met, I would say, on those who are the closest, that my hermanos, my amigos, my brothers and my sisters, like, it's a miracle. Shout out Queen Desire, it's a miracle. Like our brotherhood and sisterhood is a miracle. Like, that's my sister for real. Even though we have so-called different moms and dads on earth, that's just my sister, and I'm her brother. And I couldn't have planned on any of those. I couldn't have planned on any of that happening on my own. I could prepare myself. I could get prepared for the inevitable arrival of God. And that's what you want to do. Like, your higher self is inevitably arriving. Your purpose, all of that, the miracle is arriving. Be prepared for the miracle. Be prepared, surrender to the miracle will get you prepared for the miracle. Wow, no big miracle's coming. I better get prepared. Let me get prepared for the miracle. Let me get my mind right. Let me get heart right. Let me get soul right. And then that's the miracle itself too. And then the miracle is already there. And why do we prefer the miracle? Just realize the miracle is here. I am the miracle. You are the miracle. And nothing short of a miracle. And don't let nobody else convince you of anything less. And if you've done some fucked up shit, okay, and I mean recently, and you haven't repented, repent now. That's the miracle. Repentance is a miracle. You better believe repentance is one of the greatest miracles. Repentance? People want to avoid that word. It means surrender. It means to stop doing something that's harmful. Oh, so repentance means to stop doing something that's harmful? Okay, that makes more sense. Stop causing harm to yourself and to others. If you're in that dark place right now, just stop. It's just that easy. Stop right now. And then just one day goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days go by, 4 days go by, a week goes by, and through forgiveness, the power of forgiveness, and surrender to God with that forgiveness, and the miracle happens, we become lighter. We become more aware. We become healthier. I want to read this week. I'm only going to read something short from the gospel in closing. This is a paragraph. Actually, it's just from Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, something that we quoted in the Gospel of Hip Hop. I wanted to read about surrender to close, but I brought this book this week. This book was speaking to me this week. We've read from it in the past. She actually wrote the Book of Life and How to Play It, the Game of Life and How to Play It. This is the wisdom of Florence Scovel Shinn. And this is a compilation book of the Game of Life and How to Play it. The Game of Life and How to Play It. The power of the spoken word. The word is your wand and the secret of success. So I was reading in The Power of the Spoken Word, and I just wanted to read this up here tonight. It's not a very long read, but you'll see how this was inspired. And as it's up here on the screen, it's called Weapons Ye Know Not Of. Weapons ye know not of. I have weapons ye know not of. I have ways ye know not of. I have channels ye know not of. Mysterious weapons, mysterious ways, mysterious channels. For God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. And remember, last week we talked about what does the word mystery mean? Mystic and mysterious. We got deep last week. Go back if you haven't watched it and watch it. For God works in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. Last week's was called The Mystical Inner City, Part 1. The trouble with most people is that they want to know the way and the channels beforehand. This is the key. They want to tell supreme intelligence just how their prayers should be answered. They do not trust the wisdom and ingenuity of God. They pray, giving infinite intelligence definite directions how to work, thereby limiting the Holy One of Israel. And Jesus Christ said, when ye pray, believe ye have it. What could be more simple or direct? Become as a little child if you would enter into the kingdom. We might paraphrase the scriptures and say, have the expectancy of a little child, and your prayers will be answered. Now check this out. A child waits with joyful expectancy for his toys at Christmas. I give the illustration of the little boy who asked for a drum for Christmas. The child does not lie awake at night agonizing over his drum, wondering whether he will get it. He goes to bed and sleeps like a top. He jumps out of bed in the morning, ready for the happy day before him. He looks with wonder at that which is before him. The grown-up person spends sleepless nights agonizing over his problem. Instead of a drum, he has spoken for a large sum of money. He can't think of any way it can come. And will it come on time? He will tell you he has perfect faith in God, but he would like to know more about the channel and how it is to be done. The answer comes, I have weapons ye know not of. My ways are ingenious. My methods are sure. That's God talking to the man. Trust in me. Commit your ways unto me. Committing your ways unto the Lord seems very difficult to most people. It means, of course, to follow intuition. For intuition is the magic path. The beeline to your demonstration. Woo! Intuition is a spiritual faculty above the intellect. It is the still small voice, commonly called a hunch, which says, this is the way, walk ye in it. I refer to intuition very often, for it is the most important part of spiritual development. It is divine guidance. It is the God within. It is the eye which watches over Israel and never slumbers or sleeps with it. Nothing is unimportant. Acknowledge me in all your ways, and I will make plain your path. Remember, despite not the day of small things or seemingly unimportant events. I want to remember that part right there, because the day of small things, well, let's just pause here real quick. The day of small things, my nobility, is when, I'll use Noah's Ark, like they hadn't seen land for days on end. They're just out there in the ocean. They haven't seen land. But they know God has promised that Noah has promised to Noah he's going to see land. And the first thing that is brought to him is a branch. He sees a branch floating in the water. And that's the small thing. That's the little small thing that happens when the demonstration of God, when the dry land is about to present itself, when the miracle is about to present itself. When you're asking or praying for this big miracle and you don't even know how it's going to happen, pay attention to the little things that happen on the way, like the breadcrumbs, the little leaf that the dove brings. And you're like, oh, well, there's a fresh leaf in the water. That means land is near. So pay attention to the small miracles, because they are leading to the greater miracle. And all life's miracles are small, for when we leave to the greatest miracle is that we live past this body. So all of life is one small miracle leading even to a greater miracle. And when we acknowledge and surrender to that miracle, that's everlasting life. And not saying we've surrendered to it like she's pointing out here, but actually surrendering to it like a child. It is very difficult for a person who has always followed the reasoning mind. This is important right here. And this is why I wanted to read this. I mean, the other stuff is perfect so far up to here. But this point right here, because this is where all of us have been at one time in our life. And we also, if we're not here now or we're getting out of it now, we certainly know people very close to us who are in this. And this is just a very clear way to see where you're at and remove all the judgments or doubts or fears or depression that may surround having to deal with other people who are in a situation different than yours spiritually. It is very difficult for a person who has always followed the reasoning mind to suddenly follow intuition, especially people who have what they call regular habits. They are accustomed to doing the same thing every day at the same time. Meals like clockwork. They get up at a certain time and go to bed at a certain time. Any deviation upsets them. We have the power of choice. We may follow the magic path of intuition or the long and hard road of experience by following the reasoning mind. By following the superconsciousness, we attain the heights. In the intuition are the pictures of eternal youth and eternal life, where death itself is overcome. We have the power to impress the subconscious mind with the picture of eternal youth and eternal life. The subconscious being simply power without direction. This is high-level metaphysics, my nobility, but this is so basic at the same time. This woman is brilliant who wrote this. The subconscious being simply power without direction. Subconscious is simply just power without direction, carries out the idea, and we have our bodies transmuted into the body which can never die. We see this idea partially expressed in the moving picture, The Lost Horizon. Shangri-La was a symbolic picture of the world of the wondrous, where all conditions are perfect. That's the world of the miracles. Surrender to the miracle. It's already here. You don't have to go nowhere. The miracle is all around you. The kingdom of heaven is within. It is you. You are hip-hop. There is a spiritual prototype of your body and affairs. I call it the divine design. And this divine design is a perfect idea in your superconscious mind. Most people are far from expressing the divine idea of their bodies and affairs. They have stamped the contrary pictures of disease, old age, and death upon the subconscious, and it has carefully carried out their orders. See how that's working? The subconscious mind is just energy, and you can direct that energy to sickness, hatred, ignorance, and poverty, or health, love, awareness, and wealth, to eternal damnation or eternal life. It's a matter of choice. And make a good choice. Choices are important, and choices can be deadly, or they can be life-giving. Now we must give a new order. Let me now express the divine idea in my body, mind, and affairs. If you will impress the subconscious by repeating this statement, you will be amazed at the changes which soon take place. You will be bombarded by new ideas and new ideals. A chemical change will take place in your body. Look at that. A chemical change will take place in your body through your ideas, my nobility. Don't miss the miracle. Your environment will change for the better, for you are expanding rapidly into the divine plan where all conditions are permanently perfect. Lift up your heads, ye gates, and be ye lifted up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord, or Allah, strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Now remember, the Bible is talking about thoughts and states of consciousness. Here is a picture of the perfect ideas of the superconscious mind rushing into your conscious mind. Gates and doors are lifted up, and the King of glory comes in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. This King of glory has weapons ye know not of, and puts to flight the army of the aliens, the negative thoughts entrenched in your consciousness for countless ages. Look at this, my nobility. This is Christ storming the gates of heaven and wiping out all negativity. Can you feel it? This is the power we all have within us, my nobility. You have this within you, your superconscious mind, and you say, let me open up to God's perfect plan. I know there's dark thoughts. I know there's evil thoughts in my mind. Or I know there's something in my mind that is unhealthy for me. This causes sickness, hatred, ignorance, and poverty. Whether I created it or somebody else most likely put it in there for me. It's been abused and beaten into me, these bad ideas. Now, instead of having to take them all out yourself, the superconscious mind floods in with an army and wipes out all those alien invaders. And what happens first in the spirit happens second in the physical. Your physical body will literally chemically change. The energetic change will cause new secretions. Your brain will fire new synapses, and old synapses will stop that were negative thinking, and so-called positive thinking, the new synapses will form. These negative thoughts have always defeated the manifestation of your heart's desire. Get that. These negative thoughts have always defeated the manifestation of your heart's desire. They are the thought forms which you have built up in your subconscious by constantly thinking the same thoughts. You have built up a fixed idea that life is hard and filled with disappointments. You will meet these thoughts as concrete experiences in life, for out of the imaginations of the heart come the issues of life. My ways are ways of pleasantness. We should all build up in consciousness a picture of peace, harmony, and beauty, and someday it will push itself into visibility. See that? This is where patience comes in. Perform patience. It doesn't happen overnight. We grow into this. We are gradually becoming this. Heaven isn't a place we go to, it's a place we grow to. Allow the superconscious to flood in that perfect idea, that perfect sight of God. Allow that to flood into you. And over time, it will gradually change the synapses of your mind, of your brain, of your physical being. You will even look different. It's amazing. The divine idea of your life often flashes across your consciousness as something too good to be true. Very few people fulfill their destinies. Destiny means the place you are destined to fill. We are fully equipped for the divine plan of our lives. We are more than equal to every situation. If we could get the realization back of these words, doors would fly open and channels be cleared. We could actually hear the hum of divine activity, for we would be linked with infinite intelligence, which knows no defeat. Opportunities would come to us from unexpected quarters. Divine activity would operate in and through all of our affairs, and the divine idea would come to pass. God is love, but God is law. If ye love me, keep my commandments or laws. Dr. Ernest Wilson told me that his first knowledge of truth came through reading Emerson's Conception. Conception means loving absorption. We see children lovingly absorbed in their play. We can only be a success in a line which interests us greatly. Great inventors are never bored with their work, or they would not bring forth great inventions. Now this one right here. And you are a child of God, so this is deep. And others are children of God, so never force anyone to be what you want them to be. Learn who they are. Help them become who they are. Give them advice. Sometimes you got to say, hey, that ain't who you are. You're bugging. But never try to force a child to be something he does not want to be. He will only prove a failure. The first start towards success is to be glad you are yourself. So many people are bored by themselves. They have no self-reliance and are always wishing they were someone else. When I was in London, I saw a man on the street selling a new song. It was called I'm Tickled to Death on Me. I thought that was a wonderful idea. Start out by being glad. You are yourself. You are you. That's what Zin Uru means. You are you. Just start being glad you are yourself. No matter where you are or who you think you are so much greater than that. Just be happy with who you are right here, right now, because you are a miracle. And you can't be nobody else. You can only be thyself. Then you can expand rapidly into the divine plan of your life where you fulfill your destiny. You may be sure that the divine plan of your life will give you perfect satisfaction. You will no longer envy anyone. People often become impatient and discouraged. I was inspired by reading in the paper about Omaha, the famous ranch horse. The article said Omaha has to run a mile before he gets into his stride. There are, no doubt, a lot of Omahas in the world, but they can get into their spiritual stride and win the race in the twinkling of an eye. In the twinkling of an eye, my nobility, you will win the race. We got to win this race. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. But see, that's the key. You don't get the desires of your heart unless you're delighted in the Lord. God, the law, the universal law. Lord, metaphysically, especially in the writings of Florence Scovel Shinn, the law means universal. The Lord means universal law and surrendering to universal law. Delighting yourself in the law means to enjoy making a demonstration. To enjoy trusting God means to be happy in following your intuitive leads. Most people say, oh dear, I've got to demonstrate money again. Or, oh dear, my hunches make me so nervous, I haven't the nerve to follow them. People enjoy playing golf and tennis. Why can't we enjoy playing the game of life? It is because we are playing with unseen forces. With golf or tennis, they have balls they can see and a goal which is visible to the naked eye. But how much more important is this game of life? The goal is the divine plan of your life, where all conditions are permanently perfect. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will make plain thy paths. Every moment we can link with intuition will give us as definite a lead as a signpost. So many people are leading such complicated lives because they are trying to think things out instead of intuiting the way out. I know a woman who said she has a thorough knowledge of truth and its application, but the minute she has a problem, she reasons and weighs and measures the situation. It is never solved. Intuition flies out of the window when reason comes into the door. Intuition is a spiritual faculty, the superconscious, and never explains itself. There came a voice before me saying, "This is the way, walk ye in it." Someone asked me if the reasoning mind was ever any good. The reasoning mind must be redeemed. Trust in spiritual law, and it will be given to you. Your part is to be a good receiver, prepare for your blessing, rejoice, and give thanks, and it will come to pass. I have weapons ye know not of. I have ways which will astound you. Surrender to the miracle, my nobility. That reading was a miracle. I feel lighter. I read it earlier. And reading it the second time, I was like, I don't even remember reading any of this. It was a miracle, just reading it out. And to know that this week's reading, I didn't know what this week's reading was going to be. And I flipped open that book and I didn't feel it. And I said, my intuition tells me it's more towards the back of the book. And I flipped it open to that. And it fit the message. And it even brought the miracle forward of the message to be, instead of surrender to the Most High, which was the original name, to surrender to the miracle. And I like that closing, because what she's saying there in closing is, it's reasonable to believe in the miracle. It's a reasonable thing to believe in the miracle. It's unreasonable to trust in reason. It's a reasonable thing to trust in the miracle, to surrender to the miracle. That's the reasonable thing to do in your life, surrender to the miracle. And as that light comes rushing in, as the sight comes rushing in, as your life begins to change and expand in new ways, gradually and rapidly, you'll want to show that miracle to others, and some will be ready for it and some won't. Don't worry about that. You'll learn that. You'll know that. And you might have something you want to leave behind, a job or a relationship or just where you used to live or whatever that is, and you feel it coming. The mind of reason gets stuck, and it starts blocking the miracle. Remember, tell the reasoning mind that's trying to figure out all the details, where the miracle is going to come from. No, reasoning mind, it's reasonable to surrender to the miracle. And now the reason is like, oh yeah, I'm reasonable. I'm the reason we're here. This reason is we're here is that we're surrendered to the miracle. And there it is, my nobility. Not much more to say on that. There is one more thing to say. Let us close with the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. As you can see up here on the screen, this is from the second chapter in the Gospel of Hip Hop called The Love. And it just closes with this. Just closes with this. And I'm gonna say these words. And I'm just gonna speak this out, and then we'll close. Prophet Farrakhan has already said to us, you are not conscious of how powerful God has made you in the wrong direction. But if you turn in the right direction, you will spark revolution all over the world. But it's not a revolution of bloodshed. The prophet continued, I can't be like Jonah anymore, and neither can you. Hiding from your mission, running away from what your real assignment is. so the fish is swallowing you up. But when that boy learned to pray, he was spit up on dry land and he said, I surrender, God. I've been fighting you, but I know it's time. I hope that you will say, I surrender, God. I know it's time that I can do better than what I'm doing. Money is not more important than the rise of a suffering people into the fulfillment of the promise of God. Nothing is more important than your people becoming truly free. And there it is. And there it is, my nobility. Nothing is more important than the freedom of our people and the suffering our people are going through. Because once we reach this light, once we come to this enlightenment, once we've surrendered to the miracle, let's start looking at the bigger miracle that we can create our own city, a new civilization on this earth called hip hop, that we can return back to the ways of our Creator. Now, no matter what we've forgotten, it doesn't matter, because everything we've forgotten is inside of us. If it belongs to us, it's with us always. The miracle is you. You are the miracle. There is no separation. But the real miracle is as more of us respect and become part of this miraculous nature of God, our people stop suffering one at a time till the floodgates and the light rushes into us as a community, as a collective. And next thing you know, we go from oppression to expression. And there it is, my nobility. Rise up, because you are part of something bigger than yourself. And that's the only reason I teach these lessons. It's there to help you in your day-to-day life, no question. But this is to think bigger than what anybody else is talking about in the world. What any other, I don't know. All I know is what I'm part of. And what I'm part of is I see Hiphopia in our lifetime. I see something miraculous happen in our lifetime. I see the healing of our people in our lifetime. I don't know how it's going to get there. I'm just surrendered to the miracle of what I already know. My intuition knows it. It's all it knows. Anybody can ask me, how does it happen? Then I can come up with a formula and tell you how it may happen, but I don't know when or exactly how it's going to happen. I just know it's going to happen. That's it. I just know it's going to happen. And this is a testament to the future. The Zin Uru was on point because he believed in the miracle, because he believed in something greater than himself, which is God. And God sent hip-hop to a suffering people. And that's why when I preach and why I'm part of the hip-hop community, because of this. Because this man's vision was calling for it. Because of the greatness that we're capable of, that we don't need that system. We never did. It's been there to teach us the lesson that we are arriving at now. And now is the time. And we are the people. And we are the miracle. Rise up, my nobility. The future is here now, the everlasting now, and we're doing it for the kids. The kids are the most important. The children are the most important. We rise up, they can stand on our shoulders. Let us be mighty shoulders to stand upon. Let's be the firm foundation for them to stand upon as we walk into the promised land, as we experience it all around us. Surrender to the miracle. And there it is. Peace and prosperity with you this week. Health, love, awareness, and wealth. And there it is. Hey!